Hi again, this is Don of MGSS on Facebook. Uh, I just thought I'd go over nationalities today as far as some of the problems you'll run into in your quest for finding your roots. You know, when you watch Henry Gates Jr. on PBS, it seems like it's pretty cut and dried, but actually there's a lot of stuff they don't go into on that program. Uh, so, uh, like my last name, I have Norwegian lineage. So my last name is Loken. It's spelled Lokken. So somebody will, you tell somebody your name and they'll say, "Oh, are you related to Vicky Loken?" And I say, "Well, I don't think so. Is that with one K or two Ks? Like my name's got two Ks in it." They say, "Oh no, she's got one K." So my theory is, I'm just guessing, is one K is Swedish and two Ks is Norwegian. But going even further into my last name, or my dad's Norwegian name, you find out that where his parents came from when they came to the United States was from Lesja, Lesga, Norway. So Loken, which is in Norwegian is pronounced Luken, is like a farming community. So just because you come from Luken doesn't mean that you're related to everybody there. I mean, you might be related to a certain percentage of the people there, but I don't think you're related to everyone. But like my dad's name was Håkon, but his full name was Håkon Thorsen Loken. So Loken is where you come from. That's your location in Norway. And then Thorsen, Håkon's dad's name was Thord, Thord. So if you had, a lot of Scandinavian people have names like Thorson Johnson, son in back, or the women have Dotter, Dotter, after, in their last name, but they don't, that doesn't become a family name because names are passed on from the male. So So if somebody came to America and they changed their last name to Thorson, that doesn't necessarily mean they're related to every Thorson. It just means their dad's name was Thord, or like Henrik's son, Henry's son. It doesn't mean you're related to all Henriksons. I'm not sure if this is just peculiar to Scandinavia or if there's parallels to that in other nationalities, but that's just one of the problems you'll run into if you think you found your family line and all the different branches with the sons' names and things, and you think you got it all, you understand it all. Well, think again, there might be more to it. So I looked up on Google Translate Loken in Norwegian. What does it mean? That's another part of it. Because it's a different language, you don't always understand the meaning of things. So here's what it means. Bell, Bell in English. So when I say bell in English, I have a pretty good sense of what that means, But when I say Luken It doesn't sound like a bell to me. It's different. So lost in translation. So now, if you look up the same word with one K, Loken or Luken, it's going to have a different meaning in Swedish. It's locomotives. so, here's the difficulty of bell. What kind of bell is that talking about? Is that like a cow bell? This farming community. It's hard to say without doing more research. Where the origins of this town's or community's name came from. So that's where you really, if you're just doing research on your family name or something, the value is kind of questionable a lot of times. What does it signify? But if you dig a little deeper, like go on Google Translate, you find out what these names mean, then you might get some further insights. So I just wanted to get some books off my shelf and just show them to you, make some suggestions of books that would be really good to have. My mother's side of the family is German, so I have some titles. Here's one, Of German Ways by Laverne Ripley. If you look at the back cover, it says, Laverne Ripley grew up in a Wisconsin German-American community. He was a Fulbright Fellow at the University of Munich and has visited Germany many times. After teaching at Ohio Wesleyan University, he became chairman of the German department at St. Olaf College. Now, the reason I'm reading that is because the best way to get information is to go back to where your family came from and talk to the people that are related to you. Somebody knows in your family who you're related to. You can get more information, but just going on the internet or trying to figure out things on your own is, because of, as I explained, Thorson is not really a last name. It's the name of your father. So when somebody in my family went to Norway and got a listing of our heritage, whatever, it was a lot of names like that, Thorson, whatever the father name. So it's still hard to sort out, try to figure out what it all means. It's not what you think, it's a little complex. But anyways, also on the back page here, if you look down here at the bottom, there's other titles. These are all Barnes and Noble paperbacks. Of Irish Ways by Delaney, Of Scottish Ways by Bagley, and Of Swedish Ways by Lorenzen. These four books would be just great background for doing genealogical study. It is just totally invaluable, all the things you can learn about your heritage from books like these. It's better than, trying to find information on your family, like your grandfather was a plumber, and it's not going to be that interesting unless you know the background of your heritage. So I just have a few other, let me read some more from this back cover. It says here, in this book you will find something about German history, sports, art, music, literature, customs, and food. So there's like a chapter on each one of those subjects. It's very, very concise and thorough writing. And much about the German people. Of German Ways measures the pulse of German life in both Germany and America, and describes the great political and cultural contributions to American life of the 50 million descendants of German immigrants. So that a book like that is going to really open your eyes and enlighten you to a lot of things. If you have that heritage in your family. But here are some other books that are not quite so broad. This one's called Feisty Lydia, Memoirs of a German War Bride by Edna Thayer. This is talking about Elysian, Minnesota. So, yeah, there's just tons of books like that. Here's one called Swedes in Wisconsin. It's not really about Minnesota, but it's kind of related, by Frederick Hale, revised and expanded edition. That's from the Wisconsin Historical Society Press, so that's another good volume you might want to check into if you have Swedish. This book here is actually on North Dakota, but it's very good. Plains Country Towns by John C. Hudson. What I like about this book is it talks about town building, trade centers, railroads, social relations. This is put out by the University of Minnesota Press, and so you're going to get a lot of insights from this particular book for like the Midwestern region, small towns and things. Basically, what I learned from that book is that there's like every town needs to have a railroad going through it. When they're planning a town, they're expecting a railroad at some point to come through that town. Otherwise, you're kind of isolated. And in Minnesota, in particular, New Ulm was the market town. You had to get there at least once a year or something to get all your supplies. So if you're living in a small town and you don't have those resources there, a market, whatever, to buy things, the railroad is going to bring those things to you from New Ulm or someplace. And so this book explains how railroads pass through the town or around the town. So there's a lot of facts here that are very interesting. So that's another kind of book to check out. That one in particular, I think, especially for the Midwest, would be invaluable to understand. If you find out your family passed through North Dakota or something, or even Minnesota, it would relate to that, but you'd have to get more specific information from another source, I think, to like I mentioned New Ulm. You're not going to find that in this book because it's talking about North Dakota towns, and there's quite a few pictures of the various towns. So that's the kind of book you want to find. You want to get that information if you know the locale of where your family started or where they passed through, or that's the kind of book that's going to give you the vital information that's going to help you to understand your family better than if you just have names or occupations or something. It's better to have the actual information, knowledge about what the towns were like during those times when your family lived there. Okay, well, that's enough for right now.